Most welcome to the page here on GBC News. This is where we do chit chat, and this is where we get those who matter when it comes to sports development. And today we are taking a closer look at the just ended first standalone Africa Para Games, unprecedented in the history of the African Games, where the tournament or the competition will be held alone without any interference from any other place. And it has happened. Everybody was thinking, can this happen? Can this happen? It really happened. But today we want to take stock, really want to take a look at everything that has happened, the positives, the negatives, where can we build on it? What did you see out there that you think that when it is done right, the next time we'll see Team Ghana getting to the podium finish on all the competitions they participate in. I have a senior brother here. He is also part of the Inky fraternity, but these days he likes to be in administration, hiding. And today, by God's grace, he's here with me. No other person and then the Secretary General of the National Paralympic Committee Ghana, and also doubles as the administrator for the first Africa Para Games. Which one is appropriate?
The administrator will be appropriate.
Okay, so the administrator of the first Africa Para Games. And so everything about the Africa Para Games, he had a hand in it to make sure that he teams up well with the rest of the stakeholders to let it come. No other person than Mr. Ignatius Elletey. Say most welcome.
Thank you very much.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel good because history has been made, and therefore we need to be proud. This first of its kind on the continent of Africa, and then it comes at a time when people thought that it will not happen. It can't be possible. But as we always said, the first time the team met the president of the land, the president of the Republic of Ghana, and the message of Ghana hosting the event was placed before him, one comment that he made was that it is doable. So from there, the president of Paralympic Committee, Mr. Samson Dean, and his team had that message that it is doable. So it's quite impossible for a country to prepare for just 6 months to host such an event. You need between 2 to 4 years, even some need 8 years. You know, the next Paralympic Games and then Olympic Games after the Paris will be hosted in US, Mexico, and then Canada. So they have 8 good years to do that, to prepare for a similar event. The LOC and then the country for that matter need just 6 months to prepare. So the positives are very high, and then we have done it. And then we've laid a foundation for the next African Para Games to happen. Because Africa Para Games or para sport in Africa has existed for 36 good years, from 1987 up to this day. We have not had such a game for a region that is so vast. I mean, in terms of talent, in terms of resources that require to. It's never happened, and now it has happened. Therefore, it is a foundation that Ghana has laid. Africa has laid a foundation, and then it will continue. The foundation will not collapse. We'll build on it and then achieve higher heights for our athletes with impairment.
Initially, everybody was unsure whether we'll do it. Let's look at the sports codes that were settled on. Initially, we were expecting more, but finally, we landed on 3. Does it mean that the Africa region really believes in the 3 and feels that the rest are not ready, or there were things beyond control that led to the settling of the 3?
Thank you very much. Initial plan was to have the 13th African Games. I mean, before the African Para Games or first African Para Games will come on, and therefore we have the benefit of the facilities that the 13th African Games, who used, and so the facilities will be ready and then available. Mm-hmm. That was the original plan, and unfortunately, it was postponed. It's postponed to next year. Mm-hmm. But the African region thought that, look, whether the main one is postponed or not, this one ought to come on. And therefore, we needed, facilities for athletics. powerlifting, sitting volleyball, and then the rest. We're looking at 7 sport codes initially, and as a result of that, facilities not really available for the rest, we settle on what? On 3 codes: that wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, and then amputee football, of which at all costs we need, to have this game to make a mark for future. Therefore, waiting for next year, if they are not possible, there are a lot of events. Next year is Paralympic, game year. Paris 2024 is coming on. Next year, there'll be a CAF, African Cup of Nations, tournament. And then so many other events. And then the main or 13th African Games is also coming on. So if you put this also in the year, Ghana will be overwhelmed by a lot of events. And for that matter, the Ministry of Youth and Sport and then African Paralympic Committee thought it wise that, look, let us have it. And then this could also be a test for the 13th African Games as well. So not that we have only 3 sport disciplines, we have a lot. But at the moment, we ought to go with 3 sports code, because even the Paralympic Games started with 1 sport discipline, archery. So, and then now we have about 28 or 22 sports codes that's going to be featured in Paris 2024. So we have started with 3. It's an achievement. Next games will go higher, because even if Ghana to host, by the time the 13th African Games is done, we will have a lot of facilities that will be available to organize several sports codes, in terms of the African Para Games.
One of the highlights was the wheelchair tennis event. It served as a pathway for winners to get direct entry. We hear it is unprecedented. It has never happened before that on an African soil, an African athlete will gain direct entry to the World Games.
So I think that is the main reason why the African Paralympic Committee thought that, look, we need to have such an event on the soil of Africa, on the continent, in the sense that African will not have a direct opportunity to have direct qualification into the Paralympic unless they do what? They travel to other countries, which is quite expensive. And for that matter, we having it here as part of qualification pathway to the Paris 2024. It's a good news. Now, tennis and then wheelchair basketball have that opportunity to make it to Paris. So those who were able to make the mark directly 2024, they are already there. So this is an opportunity. And as we said, the next games will also take the same structure, and therefore our athletes will gain direct qualification into the Paralympic Games for that matter. And now at least next Paralympic Games or African Paralympic Games or African Para Games will not just be 3 events, there'll be more events that will also have that of connotation to be able to do it, to qualify into the Paralympic Games.
From where you sat, what were some of the response you received from the Africa region, looking at the fact that, okay, this thing has happened? What were some of them?
The response are very positive. From the opening ceremony, even when the IPC president was available, and then other dignitaries, some sports ministers even across the continent witnessed it and graced it. It was what? Wow, like this has never happened before. And this is the first of its kind. The opening ceremony sparked that kind of positivity, that kind of Africa can do it, that kind of Ghana is capable. So the response and then the feedback after the games has been very, very overwhelming and positive. And we believe that African para sport has arrived. And for that matter, this is the first of its kind. And the responses are positive. We need to build on it to be able to give life. And then that enthusiasm, you saw the athletes, you saw the opening ceremony, even the competition, they were happy because at the end of it all, it is their game, it is their moment, and therefore they want to demonstrate it. That is what the passion, that is what we want to sell to the rest of the world, that Africa is capable of hosting mega event for athletes with impairment.
So on your screens, some of the highlights, some of the opening ceremony highlights. Culture was at its best. Everything looked, and people came. And what really do you think has done to the morale of sportsmen and women living with disabilities? What do you think this thing has done? Looking at the leadership, President Samson Dean's posture, welcoming everybody, different athletes. Sometimes some of us, we never saw some people's impairments, so we saw them. Some even were not having any limbs at all. Now, what has it really done to the para movement? And for instance, host country like the MPC Ghana and then Africa Paralympic Committee.
You see, as part of the objective for hosting this event is to change perception of our people, in respect of persons living with disability. People think that, persons with impairment cannot do anything. You see, so having this game is, a platform to change our perception about these people. Sports, they said change starts with sport. And then it is also evident that sport is the only area that easily, accept and then embrace, persons with disability. Because we always say that, look, disability does not need inability. It is extent at which one will go. And therefore, I think that from the opening ceremony up to the last day, people's attitude towards persons with disability has changed or begin to do what? To change. They are now, it is a platform that we created for inclusion, socially, economically, or politically. Inclusion is the main message now, that the persons living with disability, persons with impairment are equally important and then also contribute to national development. And for that matter, we need to create the atmosphere, the environment for them to be able to fit into the national agenda and contribute their quota to the national development wherever they find themselves. And sport is key. We said change starts with sport. And therefore, let us give opportunity to each and every person. Like, the United Nations Convention, Article 30, states, you must give, every nation must be able to give opportunity for, irrespective of person's ability, to be able to participate in sport. Give them the opportunity to participate in recreation, competitive sport, and whatever, so that at the end of it all, when you walk on the street, you will not see, our brothers and sisters begging. No, that is not what they are meant for. They have abilities in them, and we can tap and then help national development.
With what we saw, I'm looking at the other athletes, para-athletes that couldn't get their sports codes to be featured. What message do you have for them? Is it some initially felt that, because we weren't given opportunity, it means that we've been ignored? What message do you tell them, those who couldn't get opportunity? Because there are so many sports codes that could have been part of it. And a lot of people too are asking, is it that there are some disciplines that are for the MPC and others that are not for the MPC? So when it comes to para games, they will be featured, others will not be featured. Can you use just a minute or two to really let the world know exactly whether there are some disciplines for para that really will not automatically be part of the African Games?
Thank you very much. In every game, even be it Olympic Games or African Games, it is not every discipline that participates or features. And at the end of it all, it also depends on what the country's preparedness to host, the number of events and so forth and so on. As we said earlier on, I wanted to have 7 sports codes, including our major, sports code, that is para-athletics and then para-powerlifting. Because when you look at the continent, you have para powerlifting is one of the major events or sporting disciplines across Africa. And then para athletics, even Ghana's pride in para sport is through para athletics and para powerlifting. And then it was our joy to have it here. So a number of our athletes can participate and then even get automatic qualification to the to the Paralympic Games. But it never happened. That does not mean that the hope, is over. Subsequent event, we will do that. And the issue of parasport, one parasport could not part of, the Paralympic program or parasport. Every disability sport is what? It's parasport.
Okay.
The only difference between parasport and then Paralympic sport is that those sports codes that have been earmarked, that will feature in the Paralympic program or the Paralympic Games, those are the ones you classify as Paralympic sport.
Okay.
So for that matter, in Paris, we have about 22 sports codes that will feature. So those are the part of the Paralympic program. That does not mean that the rest are not part of that, the para sport.
Okay.
Every sport that is, participate in by a person living with impairment, is qualified to be a para sport or disability sport. Therefore, the MPC in Africa or in Ghana or whatsoever, they have the right to develop every sport and hoping that one day that sport will also be part of the Paralympic program. That is all that we require. So you ask yourself, today, amputee football featured in the first African Para Game. That is not part of what the Paralympic sports program for instance, Paris. But we want to develop it. The president of the International Paralympic Committee was there. He saw, amputee soccer being played. Therefore, when he sent proposal to the IPC governing board to consider amputee football as part of what probably the next 4 years or 8 years Paralympic program, don't you think it will be easy to accept it? Because the man in charge,
I've seen it.
He enjoyed it.
He loved it. He
was there. So the issue of parasport, Paralympic distance, it is neither there nor there. Every person with disability is a potential para athlete, and therefore every para sport is a potential Paralympic sport. So long as the technical committee decided that okay, this sport has the leverage within the continent, the number of countries that practice it meet the criteria for them to be accepted into the Paralympic Games, it will be done in the sense that, look, wheelchair or para badminton was formerly not part of the Paralympic program. Taekwondo was formerly not part of it, but now they are part of it, and then they will feature in the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. So that is how it starts. We only need to do what countries need to be encouraged to develop all the sport to meet the international standard, classification criteria, and all those things. As soon as they meet all these criteria, we'll be able to get there. And one thing that you know, that for a para sport to become to be part of the Paralympic program, number of countries are required to do that, to practice it. They also require a number of continents over the globe to do what, to participate in it. So as soon as it meets, and then you also meet the technical criteria of the IPC, definitely your sport will be there. I know amputee soccer severally on 2 occasions. I've tried as much as possible to push it. We haven't gotten yet there, but I know the WAF is still working to be able. Seeing the IPC president in Ghana, witnessing the first African Para Game, including amputee football, it will be easier for us to get into the next Paralympic program. That is it. So the understanding must be there. Every para sport, every disability sport is a para sport.
Every disability sport
It's a
para sport.
It's a para sport.
So Ghanaians, let's jot this down, and then another time we get Mr. Elletey here. We'll look at logistics, how we can help really develop it, because logistics played a key role for some countries to really gain direct entry. And we'll get time to come and look at those things. But we say a big thank you for your time and your education here. And so it's been beautiful. Always Ghana first does it well. And so all the athletes out there that are watching today who are saying, okay, why didn't you were included? Please get ready. Your turn will come. And so go out there and go and shine. Once again, we say a big thank you to you, Mr. Elletey, and your team, especially your leader, Mr. Samson Dean. He doesn't give up. The two of you never slept. So now, are you guys sleeping?
How can we sleep?
So that's in the page. We had a chit chat. We looked at the aftermath. There are more things to be talked about, but this one we are breaking the ice. God willing, if we get them again and they are free, they will come and tell us more, so that we build it. You and I will build it and make Ghana the haven for everybody in this world. Those days we were told that when you are a para-athlete or a para-person, or person with disability, and you are living in Ghana, it is hell. That thing has been cancelled. It is not hell. It is ability. We can do everything. And so I salute all para athletes out there and everybody living with any disability. We say, keep on keeping on. And at the end of the day, we'll smile. Thank you very much, Mr. Elletey, once again. And thank you for doing the watching. The page returns same time tomorrow. Bye for now.